A sky full of fire. The sky tore open at 2:43 Universal Time Coordinated. Above every major city, shimmering rifts bloomed like oil slicks on water. From those rifts came ships, colossal, obsidian things that blotted out the stars. They hovered, silent at first, until every screen, speaker, and signal on Earth pulsed with a single message. A voice, smooth and cold, slid into every language at once. This is the Jah Dominion. Your planet is now under Imperial control. Surrender unconditionally, or face eradication. Then silence. In Washington, Beijing, Moscow, and Nairobi, world leaders blinked at one another over emergency satellite links. "They are bluffing," muttered one general. "They just phased into low orbit," a technician replied, "through what appears to be artificial wormholes." No, they are not bluffing. Within minutes, humanity had its answer. 3 military satellites were vaporized in streaks of ultraviolet fire. Clean, surgical, terrifying. No casualties. Just a demonstration. A warning. Panic hit the streets like a tsunami. Some called it the apocalypse. Others thought it was a hoax. But as the ship stayed fixed in the sky, unmoving and vast, disbelief died quickly. Earth had been invaded. But something unexpected happened. The United Nations, paralyzed for decades, reconvened in under an hour. Rival nations opened secure lines. Decades-old grudges were shelved. Emergency protocols were activated worldwide. Humanity had never moved faster. In a bunker beneath Geneva, Dr. Amelia Hart, biologist turned defense analyst, reviewed intercepted alien transmissions with a team of linguists and physicists. "What are we looking at?" asked a grizzled NATO officer. "Preliminary profile," Hart said, pointing to a holographic readout. The Jah evolve in a sterile, low-gravity biosphere. Their immune systems are hypersensitive. Their biology is tightly regulated by nanotech, very advanced, but very brittle outside their environment. In other words, they've never fought on a death world. The officer raised an eyebrow. Hart nodded. They don't understand this planet. Not the pathogens, not the terrain, not the people. Outside, the skies remained filled with silent monsters. But underground, in bunkers, basements, and war rooms, Earth began to prepare, not to surrender, but to bite back. They wouldn't match the Empire ship for ship, but they didn't have to. Humanity's weapon was Earth itself. Storms that shredded drones, jungles that swallowed squads, bacteria that mutated faster than their medkits could adapt, and humans, resourceful, vicious, unyielding. They would not kneel. They would teach the stars what it meant to threaten a death world. Death world rules of engagement. They landed first in New York. Sleek drop pods, like black spears, pierced the skyline. Jah soldiers emerged in precise formation, tall, insectoid figures encased in segmented armor. Their weapons glowed with pulsing energy, elegant and efficient. They moved like machines. Civilians screamed. Police opened fire. Bullets pinged harmlessly off Jah shields. Then came the order: subdue. Do not annihilate. The Empire wanted Earth intact. Its infrastructure, its resources, its workforce. That was their first mistake. The second was assuming Earth would roll over. 3 blocks from Central Park, a patrol of 6 Jah soldiers pursued fleeing civilians into an alley. They never made it out. A makeshift IED, disguised in a trash bin, tore through their shields. A second blast buried the survivors under 10 tons of concrete. From rooftops, resistance fighters cheered. A college kid with a drone rig had guided the ambush. Across the globe, similar scenes unfolded. In Shanghai, alien walkers slipped on oil-slick streets and were set ablaze by homemade napalm. In Nairobi, rebel snipers picked off officers from behind mirrored windows. In the Andes, entire patrols vanished, ambushed by guerrilla fighters who knew the mountains better than any map. The Jah were elite, but they had trained for clean wars. Wars of attrition, not chaos. They relied on perfect logistics, obedient terrain, and total environmental control. Earth gave them none of that. In Brazil, humidity shorted their exosuits. In Indonesia, a soldier died after ingesting local water, his immune system overwhelmed by microbes his species had never encountered. In the American South, a swamp claimed an entire scout unit. They were found days later, armor corroded by mold and acid-rich soil. Back in Geneva, Dr. Hart tracked resistance activity. "They are fragmenting," she said, pointing to intercepted jar chatter. "They weren't prepared for decentralized warfare. They have plasma rifles. We have hunting rifles and car batteries," said Major Okoye, grinning. "But we've got grit. Grit and home field advantage," Hart added. "This entire planet is a weapon." In Siberia, an old man wired explosives to the undercarriage of a jar transport using nothing but fishing line and antifreeze. In Tokyo, engineers hijacked a drone control signal and turned enemy aerial scouts against their own command post. The Empire had assumed they would fight armies. Instead, they faced an angry, united species fighting for survival, with every city, every jungle, every storm cloud serving as part of their arsenal. The Jar commander issued a report to High Command. "Resistance is irrational, primitive, highly adaptive. Current tactics are ineffective. Planet classified, hostile biosphere. Full subjugation will require recalibration." Recalibration meant escalation. But Earth wasn't waiting. It was learning. And it was fighting back harder than anyone had expected. You picked the wrong planet. They thought they had time. The Jar Dominion, used to slow, systematic conquests, believed Earth would crumble within weeks. But every day the invasion dragged on, their losses mounted, and Earth's resistance got smarter. In Lviv, Ukraine, a downed Jar dropship became the war's turning point. The vessel crash-landed after local resistance used a retrofitted weather balloon to scramble its guidance system. The ship's pilot survived, barely, and was quickly taken prisoner by the resistance. What mattered more, though, was the tech. Inside that scorched hull, Earth found a gift, a Jar comms core. Within 36 hours, a joint hacker collective, Ukrainians, Poles, and a group of MIT dropouts, had cracked the alien encryption. Using repurposed radio towers and weather satellites, they tapped into the Dominion's battlefield chatter. They didn't just listen. They learned. The Jar had centralized command. Every unit relied on real-time updates from orbiting cruisers. Cut the uplink, and soldiers reverted to default programming, rigid protocols with no flexibility. The weakness was clay. So humanity struck. In Kerala, India, a team of Special Forces operatives launched a raid on a captured Jar relay station. They fought with EMP grenades, machetes, and raw nerve, clearing the site room by room, bleeding and coughing from alien spores. When it was done, they turned the transmitter against the Empire. For 10 minutes, every Jar unit in Southeast Asia went blind. That was long enough. From rice fields and mountains, resistance cells poured out. They lured alien patrols into bamboo traps, flooded outposts with river water, and used electrified nets to drag down walkers. What had been scattered skirmishes became coordinated strikes. In low orbit, the Jar flagship Voljurk shook under repeated sabotage alerts. Commanders barked conflicting orders as resistance hacked, jammed, and spoofed their systems. On the ground, morale among the invaders plummeted. Discipline broke down. Soldiers who had never seen blood now watched their own spill in the mud of a feral world. In Sao Paulo, a battalion refused orders to advance. In Cairo, entire squads abandoned their gear and retreated to extraction points. And in the Rocky Mountains, a rogue Jar scout laid down his weapon and surrendered to a group of stunned park rangers, muttering through a translator. "You are monsters. Every tree, every storm, every creature wants to kill us. And so do you." Back at Geneva HQ, Dr. Hart stood before the gathered command council. "We've turned the tide," she said, voice hoarse. They came expecting a species that feared death. What they found was a planet forged by it. General Okoye nodded. They picked the wrong planet. By now, the Jar Empire was facing a grim truth. This wasn't conquest. It was survival. And Earth was no longer just resisting. Earth was winning. Earth fights dirty and wins. The Jar Empire was out of patience. After weeks of failure, they deployed the Z-Van, Elite shock troopers bred in zero-gravity vaults and conditioned to suppress entire worlds. Clad in adaptive armor and wielding pulse cannons, they were the most feared soldiers in the galaxy. They dropped into the Amazon rainforest with one objective: crush the last major resistance command node in South America. Dominion High Command expected swift results. They got silence. The rainforest welcomed them the way it welcomed all intruders, with rot, venom, and slow, creeping death. The Zevan moved in perfect formation. That didn't matter. Heat and humidity fried their sensory nets. Insects, tiny and relentless, slipped through armor seals and nested in warm joints. One trooper screamed when a bullet ant swarm swarmed up his backplate. Then came the traps. Nets woven from fishing wire and sharpened bone. Pits lined with bamboo stakes. Fire bombs rigged to tripwires and disguised beneath rotting leaves. When the first squad failed to check in, JAR Command ordered an orbital scan. It showed nothing. The canopy was too dense. The humans had planned for that. On the jungle floor, Lieutenant Marisol Reyes of the Brazilian Resistance stood among a team of ragged fighters. Some wore camo. Others wore jeans and face paint. All of them knew the terrain better than any satellite. "They are bleeding," she whispered into a hacked comms bead. "Even their elites can't breathe this air." From a ridge, Reyes watched as another patrol stumbled into a rigged gas trap. Sarin scavenged from an abandoned military depot, refined in makeshift labs. One trooper dropped. Two more fired blindly into the trees. No one returned fire. Not yet. They let the jungle do most of the killing. Above, the JAR flagship Voyager reeled under new pressure. Earth's hackers had seized control of orbital defense satellites, long dormant under international treaty. Now they roared back to life, repurposed, retargeted, and lethal. One beam tore through a JAR support frigate in low orbit. Another lanced the Voyager's porthole, sending debris tumbling through the upper atmosphere. Inside the chaos, Dr. Hart sent her final transmission to the Dominion's central relay. "We are not your subjects. We are Earthborn. You tried to conquer a death world. You failed." In the Amazon, the last Zevan squad fell silent. In orbit, the fleet began retreat procedures. Across Earth, cheers erupted, not in celebration of war, but of survival. Cities scarred by fire and ash began to stay. Resistance fighters laid down arms, weeping. Medics rushed to save alien prisoners. Even now, humanity remembered mercy. The JAR Dominion limped back into the stars, wounded, humiliated, and silent. Earth had survived, not because of superior firepower, but because it was wild, unpredictable, and filled with creatures who refused to die quietly. Humans, Deathworlders, predators,